Welcome back to Optimize Health, where we're making easy, healthy, and delicious meals. Today we're going to go through the basics for optimizing your period. And this step by step, as you go through different points of your cycle, is going to help you to reduce any associated symptoms or premenstrual, or if you have like endometriosis, PCOS. We're going to do separate episodes where we go into further details on how to mitigate some of the issues with those specific conditions, but this is a great place to start and help you get your lifestyle a little more attuned to your cycle, and then also to understand how to help yourself through your cycle. So starting with letting the body have its bleed period from days 1 through maybe it's up to 7 for some of you, and then you're going to be starting to rebuild your estrogen levels. So this is sort of where you can get away with doing your intermittent fasting. You can go hard on that. You can be low carb and really just thrive through the point where you're close to ovulation.
You should talk to your doctor, healthcare provider, or veterinarian to see if any of these recipes, suggestions, or contents of these videos are right for you. Nothing contained in these videos are intended to be taken as medical advice. Use at your own risk.
And at ovulation, you want to be starting to support more of your trio of hormones. So not just the estrogen that's been building for the past week or two, but then also your progesterone and testosterone balances. So to ovulate, you're going to need to have a little more carbs, and you may want to back off on your fasting and your stress for just those few days before you should be ovulating, which should be approximately the midpoint of your cycle. That's going to vary if your cycle is as short as 21 days or if it's as long as 35, which may be considered within normal range. So that really can vary for us there. But once we have moved past our ovulation phase, which we can go into further detail about some things you can do, I wanted today to talk more about estrogen detox in the mid-cycle, and then also boosting our progesterone. These points in the cycle are really going to help people that have a lot of the excess estrogen conditions, things like endometriosis, things like with PCOS, we can see some of these symptoms, heavy periods, painful periods, and also periods that are irregular and less predictable, or if your periods are starting early or you're spotting. A lot of the conditions that women are suffering from are happening more in the later half of the cycle. So with detox, we wanted to talk about things that we can do, like eating certain foods. These are going to be greens like arugula, broccoli, and cruciferous family, things like beets, which can help to excrete your estrogen that you don't need. And a lot of this estrogen overload is not just what we're making or what we're taking in from chemical exposure that is unnatural from the environment, but also the fact that our bodies are not excreting estrogen when we're done with it in that first half of our cycle. So beets actually help to push the excretion of estrogen out. And then another thing that naturally just helps boost excretion of estrogen is fiber, getting enough fiber. For women, more than 25 grams a day is ideal. And shamelessly, you can include things like dark chocolate for other reasons I will get to. And then also for just to note, like for myself, I get most of my fiber from things like nut butter and dark chocolate. I eat a lot of veggies, but surprisingly, that may not add up to more than 10 or 12 grams a day. So maybe half of my fiber is coming from some of these other foods that you can use as a tool later on in the cycle. And we'll get to that in just a moment. So some hormone supplements, things that can help balance hormones, include Vitax, as well as something called DIM, which is diindole methyl. And this naturally occurs in cruciferous vegetables. That's why I mentioned it, and that's why we're so heavy on that in our channel. But you can find it in a supplement form that's like more purified and concentrated. And that DIM will decrease harmful estrogens that are potentially increasing our risk for cancer and other conditions. And then the next thing we want to talk about is once we're getting closer to our period, we want to be boosting progesterone at the week before a period and maybe even right after ovulation, it would be good to start focusing on progesterone optimization. The main thing here, you can do a few things for progesterone. Progesterone wants you to have higher carbs. They want you to have glucose. That doesn't mean sugar, that doesn't mean fructose, that doesn't mean junk food. That means nature's carbohydrates like sweet potatoes, fruits, things that are in season, that things like coming into season now, we're gonna be looking at some of these gourds and pumpkins and squash, right? So those are what we wanna focus on. And then you also need to know the magnesium is very critical for progesterone, and we're all deficient. So really probably can't get away with not supplementing, especially if you're struggling with period issues or any sleep problems or other issues with muscle cramps. Magnesium for everyone. Then the next thing is we're trying to lower our cortisol. The main problem for most of us when we're having progesterone deficiencies in the last half of our cycle, if our periods are coming too early, if they're heavy, if they're irregular, it's because the progesterone isn't optimal. And that's probably because we're too stressed and our cortisol is too high. And that's going to naturally compete with progesterone. So your cortisol, you need to control that. And some of the best ways to do that are boosting oxytocin, mood. I talk about this in other videos a little more detailed, but also critically, our cortisol is high in the morning naturally, and you want to help kind of tamper that. The best way is movement, exercise, do something, even if it's just 10 minutes. Try to get some movement in the morning and outside where you get some sunlight exposure, and that's also going to help with your circadian rhythm and fasting and your belly fat if you're struggling with that, and so many things. So that's a really important tip to try to incorporate. And then cortisol lowering supplements and foods. So we have chocolate. This is going to be dark chocolate, low in sugar, magnesium, lavender essential oil, bergamot essential oil, and clary sage essential oils. I'll go into more detail in further episodes about how to use essential oils and other ways and for certain conditions with women's health. But in general, this has been kind of an intro to help you get started to regulate your monthly cycle and be symptom-free. I hope you guys will like, share, and subscribe, and I especially hope that you'll comment in and make some requests on more topics you want us to cover. Thank you.